Welcome back to Close Up on San Diego Business, where we get up close and personal with San Diego businesses and the key people that are working hard to make a difference in our community. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, here on KFSD AM 1450 and financialnewsandtalk.com. Okay, we're back. We're live. I'm your host, Barry Waxler. We are here with our first guest of the day, Mr. Mark Neilson from Accretive of San Diego. Welcome, Mark.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Well, let's start out by telling us tell us about the name first, then you can tell us a little bit about your business. What is Accretive of San Diego?
Well, the name actually reflects the business, but it's called Accretive, which is a financial word. And financial people know that word. It means incrementally positive. It's the opposite of dilutive, which is a negative word. Mm-hmm. And so, as you'll see, that also reflects how the business model works.
So you work on appreciation, not depreciation. How's that?
There you go.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you do it.
Okay. Very unusual business model. It's kind of what you might call a blue ocean business model, which is something very different, and it's intentionally so. My background kind of feeds into this. We are recovering CFOs.
Okay.
So all of my partners and I are all between 50 and 60, not ready to retire. So we decided to take the fun part of finance, and there is some fun parts, as Al will tell you, which is saving money for companies, and turned it into a business. And so what we do is we go into companies. I'll tell you in a second how we get there. And we find savings in areas that they're curious about. Could be insurance, could be tax areas, it could be technology areas. There's about 45 areas that we can look at. We may end up looking at 4 or 5. We never, ever touch payroll, headcount, org charts. We stay clear of that.
So you stay away from anything that would create a conflict of attacking their employee base and say you have too many people working for you.
Yeah, for 2 reasons. One is we think that's management's job. Number
Right.
2 is we wouldn't feel good about getting paid for, encouraging them to cut people and then paying us from those savings. Because our model is that we get paid only from the savings that a company actually realizes.
Mm-hmm. Great. So give us some examples of some of the areas that you attack again. You brought up a couple, but let me get a little bit more detail on that.
Okay. We have about 45. They fall into about 9 categories, anything from facilities, tax, insurance, banking, employee-related costs, like telecom is an employee-related cost.
Right.
But also insurance, and I think I covered most of the areas there.
Right.
So within those, there's any number of areas underneath those major categories. The most prominent ones that almost every company is curious about is insurance, whether it's property and casualty or health being kind of a front burner for everybody, and then something in technology. If they're a product company, the transportation costs are also somewhat baffling to folks because it's a very complex system of transportation out there. And so there's a likelihood that there's money to be saved the more complex something is.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you guys do the forensics and the analysis of it? So you're a former CFO and CPA, but you're basically doing forensics of their whole technology department. Do you bring in partners with you to help you, do that and investigate where there's, cost savings in technology? How do you do the analysis is my question.
It's a great question. Think of us as the general physician of the cost reduction world. And what our physicians do is they come in and find out, where does it hurt? Where does it itch? And then let's do an initial x-ray of that. An x-ray is just simply kind of a shallow dive into that area to see if truly there is an opportunity for savings. At that point, we're bringing in the experts in that particular area. And we usually start with whoever they already work with, but oftentimes we find they may not work with anybody on a particular area, so we'll bring in the right expert. The same way our doctors do.
Mm-hmm.
They identify the symptoms, make sure that the client, the patient, is interested in looking at this area, because if they don't want to look at it, then no sense getting started.
Right.
So it starts with an x-ray. If there's an opportunity for saving money, then there's a deeper dive into unbundle that and see where the opportunities are.
Awesome. Awesome.
You're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business here on KFSD AM 1450 and financialnewsandtalk.com. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, here with my co-hosts Andrea Kay and Al Arias, and our guest is Mark Neilson from Accretive of San Diego. So, Mark, you get involved with a lot of nonprofits as well. How does that tie in?
Well, I'm going to go backwards a little bit too because I'm career-wise, a corporate guy. I was CFO for large companies. I still sit on the board of public companies and for-profit private companies. But meanwhile, I've also been a volunteer, including doing fundraising for organizations like Big Brothers Big Sisters. I'm currently on the board of 3 nonprofits here in San Diego: Volunteers of America, San Diego Social Venture Partners, and the San Diego Leadership Forum. Well, nonprofits struggle to raise money. Their donor fatigue is widespread and deep. So actually, we kind of came up with the idea, with help from Junior Achievement, actually here in San Diego, that our business model lends itself to being a whole different form of fundraising. It's kind of like found raising, because right now nonprofits raise money from sending letters, holding events, and chasing deep pockets, which can be foundations, corporations, or high net worth individuals. That's pretty much it. So nobody really thought about there's a whole pool of a reservoir, if you will, of funds available to nonprofits from their corporate partners called found money. Turns out all of us are much more generous with money we don't have yet. If you found $100 this morning and someone asks you later in the day to donate some of that, you'll say, oh, I wish I'd thought of that. I'd already spent it, or in my mind, or I actually spent it. But if I ask you about tomorrow, if you found $100 tomorrow, would you share some of that with your favorite charities? Everyone says yes. In fact, they'll say, tell you what, make it 20%. So we are all generous with money we don't have yet. So all we're doing is asking nonprofits to ask their corporate partners that same question, but with a lot more zeros.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. One of our partners is Junior Achievement, and they're raising $4 million for a capital campaign, and they asked us to take $1 million of that to try to raise that. We don't go out and ask people for money. What they do is they put us in front of some of their corporate relationships. And just last week, one of those companies discovered, with our help, that they have a rather significant savings opportunity of something they had never heard of. It won't involve laying anybody off. Back of the envelope so far early on, it looks like could be a better part of $800,000 for this company.
Nice.
So when the smoke clears, if that all plays out over the next 2 years, the company will have gotten that money. And it actually has to do with state training credits that most people are not familiar with. And Junior Achievement will end up with better part of $100,000 of that.
Wow.
We get paid out of that pool of savings. The company ends up keeping at least 50-60% for the first year. And then after that, they're keeping most of it. And they can continue to share with the nonprofit after year 1. We only participate for the first year, and then we're out. The company keeps the savings beyond the first year, and if they want to, and we encourage them to, they can keep sharing with the nonprofit. So I have lots and lots of examples like that of found money, but the key is to ask the company in advance if they'll share with their favorite nonprofits. So that's why we work backwards and partner with the nonprofits.
Get the nonprofit to introduce you to the company, and then it works for everybody because there's already a connection there.
Exactly. And by the way, the companies have plenty of things that they want to reinvest that found money in.
Right.
Because we're finding out things that they are either accidentally wasting money or things they don't know about. And there's lots of state, federal, whether tax credits or training credits, reimbursement programs. There's so much stuff out there. There's no CFO on the planet that can know all that stuff. No one. So our job is to access the best practices that are out there through professionals like Al that tap into those opportunities.
Well, and you must
those kinds of credits are really technical. So not everybody knows how to get them.
Absolutely.
So you have to affiliate. You probably affiliate with somebody that specializes in specialty credits. There are firms that just do that.
Yeah. No, I remember working with a number of farmers who had no idea what kind of zones they were in. They had their farms out there. They were able to get huge tax credits. You just needed to connect them up with the right type of firms that knew how to do that stuff.
So we have about 8 of these nonprofit partnerships currently. We're probably going to not go beyond 10. I'm kind of working with a few right now that I'm interviewing, if you will, military organizations. I really would like to have one in that sector. But again, this is good for the economy and for nonprofits. So there's really no downside to this because we take all the risk. We're not paid for our time. We're only paid for results.
Well, you must have a lot of good results to be so confident as to offer your services on contingency. I mean, that makes a statement in and of itself.
Well, your service is to identify the opportunity and discuss it and then get them to get the party to buy into pursuing it.
But it's also about knowing who the right professionals are, just the same way we all count on our doctors to know who the right expert to bring into our medical lives. We never actually say, well, gee, I want to check their credentials, or give me 3 options. When our doctor says, here's the right person, we just say, okay. So we've vetted all these resources, and we're continuing to look for more to add to our PPO, if you will, of cost saving and subject matter experts.
Oh, that's great. So tell our listeners how they can find more information on Accretive.
Okay. Well, of course, our website, as everybody might expect, is Accretive San Diego, which is spelled ACCRETIVE, and San Diego spelled out .com.
Great.
And but the better thing, really, though, is because the website's fine, but this is so different that I really think it's important to sit down and really understand who the people are that are doing this. We're all involved in community nonprofits as well as in the for-profit world. So we're really working somewhere in the middle that shows nonprofits how they should best approach corporations.
And you also have an office in the Midwest, correct? Because we have people who listen all around the country.
Oh, sure. Actually, because I'm from the Notre Dame area, just an hour and a half east of Chicago, we have a group there, another group of recovering CFOs, because the boards I sit on are all back there, because that's where I'm from before moving here 9 years ago. So.
Awesome. Wonderful. Saving money, helping the nonprofits.
Fundraising. I used to call that finding your hidden opportunities. So it's all the same thing. That's a wonderful thing. So which nonprofits are you working with nowadays?
In San Diego, we're working with, as I mentioned, Junior Achievement. We're also working with the National Multiple Sclerosis Society's Pacific South Coast chapter, which is really Orange County and San Diego, and Volunteers of America, and we have about 4 others who are evaluating whether they want to go ahead and adopt this model here. Then I have a few in the Midwest as well.
Great. So if you're part of a nonprofit out there and you want to find some ways to generate capital that wasn't there before, I think call Mark Neilson at Accretive of San Diego. Visit the website, accretivesandiego.com. And any special phone number they can get you at?
858-401-0640.
Great. Well, Mark, we appreciate you being with us. We've got a nice gift from you, a gift pack from some of our sponsors with Dr. C from Spark Health and Fresh Healthy Vending and Sombrero. So
hopefully there's some sunscreen in there somewhere.
Yeah.
There's some sunscreen in there. Well, we'll
Dr. C can help you if you get sunburn.
That's right. So great. Appreciate you being here. We're getting ready to go to break. You're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business, where we get up close and personal with homegrown San Diego businesses, people that are working hard to make a difference in our community. This is financialnewsandtalk.com. I'm your host, Barry Waxler. We'll be right back after the break with more homegrown business Close Up. We will have with us Kevin O'Brien from Merchant Warehouse.